guys, welcome to Spooky Okie Podcast. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Madison.
And today we have a true crime episode.
Woo! I love true crime episodes. I say this every time. I love them and I hate them.
I love them too. I did not even know that this happened in Oklahoma. Mine is a super interesting one. And I thought it was going to be a short story. And then...
Then it's not.
Then it was not, because I was doing 2 sets of notes today because we recorded the Gilcrease Museum episode today as well. And I was working on 2 sets of notes and I was like, oh, I'll just do a short true crime story. And it's not.
Yeah. Mine's like medium length. It's like, it's not short, but it's not long. It's not Bonnie and Clyde long for sure.
Mine's 5 pages.
I don't even know what mine is because my iPad doesn't do page numbers.
Oh.
Half of mine is like a testimony from court that I'm reading. So, so it was pretty easy notes, but it's really good. It's another story. Like, I had no idea this happened in Oklahoma.
Yours has...
It's not super long.
5 pages as well.
Oh, well, look at that. This has to be the first time we've done like a similar length story.
I know. Look at us.
Look at that. Crazy. All right. Anything to say before we start? I feel like no, because we literally just recorded an episode. So
we did. Just stay tuned next week for Instagram pictures of me wearing the shirt that you guys voted on that I gotta wear to my colonoscopy.
I bought it and sent it to her house.
She did not trust that I was gonna order
it. I was like, hey, the yes is 1. You have to wear it. I'm ordering it for you right now. What size do you want? I already knew her address, so I shipped it right to her.
Oh gosh. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay.
I verified with the person that's taking me to my colonoscopy that they would not be embarrassed to take me there.
Okay, good.
And no, she was like brilliant.
Yeah.
So she was excited.
Although your mom wasn't a big fan.
My mom was not a big fan. My mom was extremely embarrassed, and now she's glad she's not taking me.
She's also judging me hardcore for me bringing up this idea and buying me the shirt.
Oh, she is. She's like, I thought I liked Madison. I'm not sure now.
Oh well, it'll be okay.
I was like, I feel like it fits. I'm a young person getting a colonoscopy. Like, my doctor was literally like, you're not the youngest person, but you're one of the youngest people that has ever been in my office.
You gotta make it fun.
I'm like, I don't fit being a young person, so let's wear the shirt.
Might as well. Why not? Honestly,
nurses will laugh, right?
Exactly. They're gonna appreciate it.
I think so.
They're gonna like it. If you don't know what we're talking about, then sorry.
Then get on Instagram
and go listen to the Louisiana episode, because that's when we talked about the idea.
Exactly.
All right. Should we do this?
Let's do this.
I assume I'm going first.
You typically do. I feel like we should just stick with tradition at this
point. Good. Sounds good to me. I am going to be telling the story of Jake L. Hamon Sr.
All right.
Have you ever heard of him?
Never heard of this.
I hadn't either until I was frantically Googling things last night, because I didn't want to do like a super brutal story or like anything recent, and I was really having trouble finding a story that I wanted to cover. Like, it was just really hard. I think it was because the last true crime one I did was Bonnie and Clyde, and so I was just like, oh well, like that was so fun to cover, like solid, like long notes, and it was really hard to find a story to follow that one. But this one's really good too. I really like it. Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I'm excited.
So can't wait to tell you guys the story.
Yeah.
Here are my sources. Wikipedia, obviously. New York Times. Strange Times.
Okay.
Newspapers.com.
Okay.
MuskogeePhoenix.com.
Nice.
OKHistory.org.
Okay.
And in 2013 dollars.
I wonder what that one's for.
Who can say, really? Okay, let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
So, on November 21st, 1920, a wounded man stumbled into a hospital in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Okay, starting off strong.
Oh, yeah. He had been shot.
Okay.
The bullet had pierced his liver and lodged in his spine.
Oh, not good.
Not good at all.
And he stumbled. He stumbled in.
He stumbled
into the hospital. Like, he just walked in.
He kind of insisted on walking himself.
Okay.
So, he clung to life for 5 days before he finally died.
Okay.
You may be wondering who this man is.
I am.
I assume at this point.
I'm wondering very much who this person is.
Well, this man was politician, oil millionaire, and railway owner Jake L. Hamon, who was also about to join newly elected President Warren Harding's cabinet.
Okay. Interesting.
Let's learn a little bit about Jake.
Shall we? Let's do it.
So, Jake L. Hamon was born in, I don't know how to say this, Granola, Kansas? That sounds not right. It's
Is there really a granola Kansas?
look. Grenola. Granola?
Maybe it's granola.
Granola? Granola. I say granola.
I mean, granola is more fun.
It's a lot more fun. So we're gonna say that. It never comes up again. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
It's Kansas.
He was born in Kansas on June 5th, 1873.
Okay.
He graduated from the University of Kansas in 1898 with a law degree. That same year, he married Georgia Perkins, and the couple had 2 children, Jake Jr., who was born in 1901 or 1902.
Okay.
Nobody really knows. Sorry, Junior. And Olive Bell. One word, Olive Bell.
One word.
One word.
Okay.
Born in 1909.
It's gonna be my daughter's name.
So a fun fact about Olive Bell.
Okay. Yes, please. I love fun facts.
Olive Bell became famous as a child music prodigy.
Oh, okay.
She was a violinist.
Okay.
She was also a vaudeville performer.
Okay.
And a licensed pilot.
Holy crap.
Olive Bell was
Olive
really
Bell.
cool. So
I love an Olive Bell.
she began flying by the age of 10. She would do like stunt flying, like, yeah, their 10-year-old was flying an airplane.
Who lets their child fly a plane? I thought that my grandmother was crazy for letting me use a needle at the age of 5.
Oh, yeah, no, my kids definitely do embroidery and stuff. They use needles very regularly and have their own like knives in their own little kitchen, but it's fine. They're kid knives, so it's fine.
That's
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't let them fly a plane though.
No.
That would be a little much. I'm all for independence. That might be a little much.
That's a lot.
So she did a lot.
Go Olive Bell.
A lot. We love Olive Bell. However,
Oh no.
most of her fame came from her eventful personal life with multiple high-profile suitors and marriages. Like, that's what she became kind of known for.
I mean, go Olive Bell.
Go Olive Bell. Like, I kind of hate, though, that all of these cool things got lost because all the headlines were about, like, oh, who's she gonna marry?
Oh, she's with this person now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, that sucks.
shut your face. She started flying a plane when she was 10.
She was a 10-year-old flying an airplane. Like, are you kidding? Okay, anyway, that's our little fun fact about Olive Bell, and we never talk about her again. So,
Well, dang, because I love Olive Bell.
goodbye, Olive Bell.
We need a full episode committed to Olive
I
Bell.
agree. She's really cool. I did see some places like she was listed as Olive Bell, one word, but then some would like separate it into Olive Bell.
I like Olive Bell, one word.
I agree. I think that's much more interesting.
That's gonna be my daughter's name.
Love it. Add it to the baby name list.
Yep.
It will not be my daughter's name. It's a little much for me.
It could be a good middle name.
Yeah.
You're like, absolutely
No.
no.
No, not for me. Anyway, so back to Jake.
Okay.
Let's get back on track, shall we?
Okay.
So he and the family moved to Lawton, Oklahoma in 1901.
Okay.
He quickly became the city attorney and then was elected mayor, like very quickly.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know exactly when it happened, but it was very quickly.
Dang.
Because by 1903, 2 years later, he was already voted out of office
Oh, yes.
due to claims of corruption and extorting money from local gamblers.
Oh, well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like he needed to leave office.
Yeah, I like Olive Bell a lot better than I like her father.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't a great guy, I don't think. He began his political career as Republican Territorial Committee chairman.
Okay.
In 1909, he went to Washington, D.C., where he lobbied for Governor Charles N. Haskell, who faced land fraud charges. I don't really know that whole story.
He was a person that liked fraud, so he's gonna help rally
Yeah.
behind somebody else.
He was
committing fraud.
Pretty corrupt dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
In 1910, he was accused of bribing Senator Thomas P. Gore to support attorney J.M. McMurray's land contracts with the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations.
Oh.
Senator Gore claimed that the contracts were worth $30 million and that Hamon, Jake, stood to gain a 10% fee contingent on the sales. So he was like personally benefiting from these land
sales.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So Jake
from Native Americans.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, terrible dude.
Cool.
So Jake had offered Gore $25,000 for his favorable vote. I didn't even look up what that is now, but it's a whole lot.
Wow.
Gore continued to oppose the sale. So like good for him. The charge
a butt, though.
Yeah, the charge was investigated by a congressional committee where both McMurray and Jake Hamon denied under oath that they had attempted to bribe Senator Gore, and they were never prosecuted. So like they were just like, no, we didn't do that. And they were like, okay,
whatever you say.
whatever you say. So anyway, totally got away with all of that corruption.
Wow.
So then he returned to Oklahoma.
Nice.
Yeah, and after returning to Oklahoma, Jake met Clara Smith at a store in Lawton.
Nice. And they lived happily ever after, and they were good people for the rest of their lives.
That's what happened. That's why we're talking about it on a true crime podcast. So there's some contradicting information about when they met.
Okay.
And their ages when they met.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Love
So
this.
some sources say that they met when Jake was 40 and Clara was 16.
What?
A minor. Other sources say Clara was 20 when they met. So, like, that's, depending on the source, that's a pretty big difference. She was either an adult or a minor, and I don't know which, but
I'm guessing based on his track record, the 16 sounds.
yeah,
like
so that's what I'm guessing too, because then he let me see if that's the next. Yeah, so they began an affair shortly after meeting.
Of course.
And then he sent her to finishing school, to like learn proper manners and all of that. And to business school.
Because she had to be perfect to be his wife.
Right, not his wife. He already had a wife.
Oh, yes, sorry. To be
Yes,
his
a wife and 2 children. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
So
he had Olive Bell, come on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm assuming she was probably 16 because he sent her to finishing school, which is like what you do as an older teen, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
Like high school age.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but some sources say she was 16, others say she was 20. But he sent her to finishing school and then to business school. And then after
to business school, I mean, that's great. That's one plus.
And then she
became
his personal secretary. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is another part of the story that has a couple of different stories depending on what the source is.
Okay.
So some sources say that Jake paid his nephew Walter $10,000 to marry Clara and then move to California and leave Clara in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's just
so that may have happened.
Shady.
The other story, though, is that in 1917, Clara married and then very quickly divorced Jake's nephew Frank, so a different nephew. And apparently she did this so that she could get the same last name as Jake, because it was Frank Hamon, his nephew, so that they could travel together without question, without raising any red flags.
Okay.
So I don't know which way it went, but either way, same end game, basically.
You could just change your last name anyways.
I wonder if there were different rules. Yeah, probably couldn't just change your name. Anyway, so
as a woman, probably.
Yeah, as a woman, I'm sure you had to be married, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
on that soapbox.
Yeah, no, let's not start. So Jake's wife, Georgia, soon discovered the affair because obviously this man is not very slick.
No.
She refused to divorce him though, and she agreed to move to Chicago with the kids in exchange for $1,000 a month.
Good for her.
You want to know how much that is these days?
I surely do.
So I don't know for sure because I don't know exactly what year this arrangement happened. But based on kind of the middle of that range, it would be about $30,000 today. This is $30,000 a month.
A month. That is impressive. That's just like,
and he agreed to it.
That's just 10,000 less than what I make in a year.
Yeah, same.
Wow,
wild. So must be nice.
Must be nice.
Oh, can't relate. So
not that I want to marry a bad guy, but like,
no, I don't think that would be worth it, to be honest.
No, but hey,
no. So anyway, after that, he got rid of the wife and kids, shipped him off to Chicago, and paid a bunch of money for them to just leave him alone so he could do whatever he wanted. Wow. So he and Clara then moved into the Randall Hotel in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Where they had luxurious adjoining rooms.
Oh.
I'm confused about like a luxury hotel in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Things were different back in the day.
They sure were.
Places. I mean, hey, Kanawha had a movie theater back in the day.
That's true. I still can't believe they tore that down. Mm-hmm. Sad. Yeah. Bad decision.
It's really bad.
Anyway, so in 1912, Jake partnered with John Ringling of the Ringling Brothers.
Okay.
Because that seems like a logical next step in the story.
Like, wow, this is...
That is the point that I was like, I'm covering this story.
Okay.
Like, that's what made me be like, I'm covering this. This is just insane.
This is hysterical.
So he partnered with one of the Ringling brothers
Okay.
to build a railroad from Ardmore to Ringling, which was named for the Ringling brothers.
Right, that's
the
where my dad's
railroad.
from.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I didn't know that it was named for them.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea.
They were gonna winter the circus there, but the winters weren't mild enough.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, interesting. Yeah, I had no idea. And I was like, well, duh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, they were gonna winter the circus there, and so that's why they named the town Ringling.
Yeah.
But then they were like, oh wait, the winters are still too cold here.
Yeah.
And so they had to change places.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they also had the railroad that went from Ardmore to Ringling. So
yeah. That's what helped establish the town.
Yeah. So anyway, following this, he also made a fortune in oil leases.
Oh, okay.
So that's all we talked about the Ringling brothers, but that one point was enough for me to be like, oh yes, this is a story I'm covering.
Nice.
So he makes a ton of money in oil leases.
Okay.
And then he starts ventures in Texas, where he founded the short-lived town of, I want you to guess what he named his town.
Hamon.
Jake Hamon, one word.
Oh wow, so close.
Just kind of rings back to Olive Bell, right?
Yeah.
All one word, Jake Hamon.
Jake Hamon. Okay.
It was a short-lived town, though it didn't last very long. And this was during the Desdemona oil boom of 1919.
Okay.
So
big oil boom.
Yep.
Right.
And then that same year in 1919, Jake campaigned for election as Republican National Committeeman.
Okay.
The election got very rough though, and they were just like ripping him apart in the media.
Really?
Because he's a crappy guy.
He is.
He's not a good person. So they began attacking his reputation and his character, which like is
fair.
what happens in campaigns. Like that's part of it. It shouldn't be, but like it is, you know.
I mean,
and there were valid reasons for them to attack his reputation and character.
I'm gonna say, like, they seem to be valid reasons for why you would not want him as a public figure.
I agree. So one attack in the press openly called him a womanizer. Just straight up called him out, and I was like, good. Yeah, as they should. So what did he do next, you might ask?
What does he do next?
He begged his wife Georgia to come back to Oklahoma and campaign with him.
Oh, right. To have the lovely, supportive wife, the family man image. Mm-hmm.
Interesting that you say that, because she did come back for some reason, and he was able to convince people that he was a good family man.
Of course.
Wow, and people fell for it.
Because that's what we're looking for in America. We're looking for this
all-American family man.
White man with a family, the white picket fence, the American dream.
Yep.
Pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, gonna lead America to be great again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the people fell for it and elected him.
Of course.
So, yep. In 1920, he was elected.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was in this position...
Why does this remind me of like our previous president?
I wonder why. Interesting. So while he was in this position, he met presidential candidate Warren Harding.
Okay.
And he discovered, wouldn't you know it, that Warren's wife, Florence, was his own wife's second cousin. Oh, so now he's not going to divorce Georgia. Now he's like, that's out of the question. I'm not losing that connection.
No.
So anyway.
Fun fact.
So then he's like all about supporting Warren Harding, obviously, because he's got that connection. And he spent $1 million at the 1920 Republican convention buying delegates for Harding.
Wow.
Gotta love America.
Just happenstance. Just happened to buy some delegates for him. Just
happened to spend $1 million doing that. In 1920.
That's ridiculous. What is that in today's money? Did you look that
up? I didn't look that one up. I didn't even want to know, to be honest. Nope. It would just make me $1 million in today's money would be enough. Like, no, I don't even want to know what it is. So anyway, apparently he wanted to gain a spot in Harding's cabinet, and his goal was to be Secretary of the Interior because he wanted to capitalize on the oil supply at Teapot Dome, Wyoming.
Teapot Dome, Wyoming.
The wildest name.
This story is incredible.
It's amazing. I love it. So that's what he wanted, because he wanted, personal gain, obviously.
Yeah.
So President Harding insisted that Jake bring his family to Washington and leave Clara in Oklahoma. He was like, you can't do this. Like, if you're going to be involved, then you bring your family, aka my wife's cousin, your wife.
And not the mistress.
Yeah, you have to leave the mistress behind in Oklahoma. And so what does he do? He's like, bye, Clara. So he, of course, on November 7th, 1920, he told Clara that she had 3 weeks to leave.
Okay.
And then
Clara doesn't take this well.
Clara does not take this well.
Okay.
No. Remember, she relies on him for everything.
Yeah.
He found her as basically a child. She was most likely a minor.
Yeah.
He's the one that sent her to, like, all power and control is his. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely awful situation. She's been with him for years at this point. Like,
yeah.
You know, what's she supposed to do? Obviously, she's not going to take it well. So on November 20th, 1920, Jake was having a private dinner with a confidant of the newly elected president to discuss Jake's new role in the new administration.
Okay.
And this was like at the hotel that they lived at or whatever.
Okay.
So Clara was not included in this dinner, obviously.
Yep.
But she came downstairs anyway, very drunk.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
She and Jake had an argument, and Jake told her to go back upstairs. He threatened to call the police if she didn't go back upstairs. Clara went back upstairs where she allegedly laid down and went to sleep. She's gonna sleep it off.
Okay.
So when Jake told his friend, Bob Hutchins, that he wanted to go upstairs to console her, Hutchins warned him, "She thinks you're giving her the brush off." This is what he said, quote, "She thinks you're giving her the brush off. If you go up there now, you'll come down on a death wagon." But Jake didn't listen, and he went upstairs anyway.
Because he always gets his way.
Because he always gets his way. He's not going to listen to other people.
No. He's too smart for that.
Obviously. So, allegedly, Jake went up to Clara's room where he started beating and strangling her. She then pulled a gun out of her purse, and then witnesses in the street below saw through the window, saw Jake attack her with a chair, and then the gun went off.
Okay.
So then Jake staggered downstairs and walked to the hospital where he died 5 days later.
Gotcha.
And Clara was charged with Jake's murder, but she claimed self-defense. Would you like to hear her testimony?
I would love to hear her testimony. This is
her own words, the entire story.
I'm so ready.
Here we go. This is long. So this is going to be like literally half my notes. All right. So this is all her saying this.
Okay.
Quote, "I was busy cleaning up my room and getting my clothes ready to go away to California, and I decided that I would like to have a little ride, so I got in my car. This was about 6 o'clock. It was about 7, dark enough for the streetlights to be on when I came back.
Okay.
When I drove up to the hotel, Mr. Hamon was sitting in front in a chair. Between Mr. Hamon and the door of the hotel, there was another chair. He immediately grabbed me as I passed and shoved me down in the chair and said he wanted to talk to me and used profane language. I told him, 'Please don't curse here, don't make a scene. If you want to curse and be mean to me and abuse me, let's go to the room.' He continued to curse me, and I noticed that the lights in the car were on, and I said, 'Wait a minute, I want to turn the car lights off.'
Okay.
He turned me loose, and I walked to the car and switched off the lights. When I passed by him, he turned to get through the door. He again grabbed me by my arm, jerked me down on a chair, and again cursed. I said, 'Go to the room, Mr. Hamon, if you want to abuse me. There are some men standing there. You must not talk that way here in public.' He got up, and I went upstairs to my room. I was afraid of Mr. Hamon, very afraid of him. I saw a look on his face that I had never seen before. He was drunker than I had ever seen him in all the years I had known him. He was drunk and crazy. I don't think the whiskey was good red whiskey, as Mr. Nichols said. He usually drank good whiskey, and he wasn't usually crazy like that. So apparently it was not good whiskey.
Apparently
bad whiskey
makes you bad? Okay.
Apparently so.
Okay.
Anyway, back to her quote. When I got to my room, the doors were locked between our rooms, and the bathroom door was locked. I rang for the porter. I thought I had better eat something. I hadn't had anything to eat all day. At breakfast, I could not eat. When Bill, the porter, came in with ice water, Mr. Hamon slipped in with him. I had to unlock the door for Bill. I was afraid of Mr. Hamon. I wanted him to keep away from me for 24 more hours so I could go to California and wait for him to sober up and come to me looking the sweet, kind lover he had been before. Mr. Hamon paced up and down, running his hands through his hair as he did when he was agitated. And the minute Bill went out, Mr. Hamon said, 'Where have you been?' and grabbed me at the same time and choked me. He choked me until I was blind and I couldn't seem to think. He choked me and hit me, and somehow he threw me over on the bed. After he got me on the bed, he beat me and slapped me and hit me 2 or 3 times and took me by one foot and jerked me off the bed on my back. I had been operated on in the back and it hurt me extremely. He took pains to kick me in the back.
Oh.
Yeah. I struggled to get up and did get up, and he choked me again and backed me up against the window and choked me again and slapped me. And then again. He wasn't satisfied with that, so he twisted the skin on my hand. He wasn't satisfied with that. He bent my fingers back and tried to break them, and then he said, 'I will cut your throat,' and he reached for his knife. The knife had fallen out of his pocket in the afternoon while he was lying on the bed, and I had picked it up and put it over on the table after he walked out of the room. When he did not have the knife in his pocket, he reached for the knife I had given him on a little gold chain, and somehow, some way, that knife wasn't there. He looked around, and in the meantime, he was choking me and beating me. He said, "You've been riding with somebody, haven't you?" And I said, "No, you know I haven't." When he didn't find his gold knife, he saw over on the dresser a knife he had given me a long time ago just to sharpen pencils. It was very, very sharp. He reached for that knife and said, "I would just as soon slit your throat as draw on this cigar." Brutal.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, when he reached for that knife, I knew the time had come. I unconsciously or consciously reached back and in my purse on the windowsill got my little gun. I asked him to stand back and let me pass. And then her counsel says, "Well, what did you do with the gun, with the pistol, when you got hold of it?" And she replies, "What would anyone do if they thought their life was in danger?"
Mm-hmm.
And then her counsel said, "Never mind that. What did you do with it?" Because, gotta get a clear answer.
You're right.
And then she said, "I held it on him. He did back away, sort of, behind a chair, and put his hand on the back of the chair. He did not raise his hands. I didn't ask him to. I wasn't very far from him when I passed between the corner of the bed and Mr. Hamon in the chair to get to the door to get out.
Mm-hmm.
He backed around to the door between our rooms, holding my hand like this to back up to the door to unlock it, the lock that he had locked when Bill went out. She couldn't see him. I couldn't see him. When I unlocked the door to go in that instant, he turned off the light and raised the chair to strike me, and did strike me. I could see from the light of the hall. He struck me with that chair, and the gun went off. And I was unlocking the door like this and holding the gun on Mr. Hamon, but he was just out of my sight for a minute, and he got around the corner, and the chair came down on me, and it knocked the gun on the floor like that. And it went off as it fell, or I pulled the trigger, or something as he hit me. I don't know. The gun went off. So that was her whole testimony.
Wow.
In the papers. So.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
That's insane.
I love getting to find that first person stuff.
Testimony,
Yeah, because you don't find those often for old stories from the 20s. It's been 100 years and we still have her words about that.
That's
wild.
Awesome.
So after the incident, Clara fled to El Paso. So between the incident and going to court, she came back for court.
Right.
But she fled to El Paso, where her mother confirmed that she was badly bruised. She said, quote, "The skin almost twisted off the right wrist." So, and she was saying he kept grabbing me and yeah. So, the trial lasted 7 days, but after only 39 minutes of deliberation, the jury found Clara not guilty.
Dang.
Yeah, 39 minutes. That's so short.
So short.
Yeah. So Clara lived the rest of her life in mostly obscurity, although she did apparently try to work as an actress for a while. In a local paper in Missouri, in some town in Missouri.
Okay.
A 1921 headline read, quote, "Clara Smith Hamon film will be barred in city." And then it went on to explain who Clara Smith Hamon and Jake L. Hamon were, but the silent movie's title wasn't even named in the article because they were like, you don't get to watch this. Nobody's watching it. So anyway.
Wow. Okay.
And that is the story of Jake L. Hamon and Clara Smith Hamon.
That is so cool. Did you look to see if she has an IMDb?
I didn't. I will right now. Let's look her up. Are you looking her up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fate 1921.
She was in the movie Fate in 1921. Wild. I wonder if that's okay. I read that it might be their story, the story of them, and she starred as herself. I wonder, can you click on the movie and can we see if that's what it is? Because I thought I had read something about that.
Oh, it doesn't truly show it.
It's true crime, and drama are
the.
Dude.
I wonder if it is because it's a man grabbing a girl.
I bet it is her own story that she starred in. Good for her. Capitalize on that.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything, does it? Shoot.
Anything. Oh.
Yeah. It was based on the true story of Clara Smith Hamon. I wonder if we can find that to watch somewhere. I want to watch it.
I don't know, but that would be so cool. Countrywide protests, however, quashed her dreams, and all copies of the film were burned, leaving only a still shot to mark its former existence.
That's so upsetting.
That is so sad.
Shoot. Wow. I really wanted to watch it. Okay, well, that's their story, and nobody gets to watch the movie, so.
Wow.
Yep. Pretty wild, huh?
Wow. Okay, so it says that when she was acquitted of the charges, she began a love affair with John Gorman, the president of Gorman Pictures.
Oh.
and started in the film version of her own story,
Right.
fulfilling her lifelong dream of being a movie star.
Yeah.
Wow. So that still shot is the only thing that's left.
That's wild. Send that to me and I'll put it on the Instagram.
Okay.
Crazy. Anyway, that's their story, and it's pretty wild, and I had no idea any of that happened in Oklahoma.
No, me neither. Wow, what a story.
Yeah, pretty
Good
wild.
job.
Yeah. I found that at 11 o'clock last night, and I was like, great, perfect, love it.
Nice. All right, are you ready for my case?
I'm so ready for your case.
Okay, so mine is the story of Roger Wheeler.
Okay, never heard of him.
All right, I had never heard of this either. So my sources are voicesofoklahoma.com, golfdigest.com.
Okay.
It'll make more sense why in a second.
Wait a minute. I have heard of him because I almost picked this story.
Did you?
Now that you said golf, I think I know.
Okay.
I mean, I'll know more once we get into it, but I am almost positive because I almost picked this one.
Fox23.com, texasmonthly.com. I have a second source from golfdigest.com.
Love it.
Pelicanpub.com, theirishmob.com,
Okay.
newson6.com, tulsapeople.com, and wikipedia.org.
All right. Yeah, once you start telling the story, I think I'm going to be able to confirm that it's the one I read like a couple little sentences about and almost picked.
Okay.
But I didn't. I picked this one instead, obviously.
On May 27th, 1981, it was a seemingly normal day at the Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yep. I almost picked this.
The lawn crew was taking care of the golf course grounds, kids were swimming in the country club pool, and golfers were playing rounds of golf trying to score that all-elusive hole-in-one shot. However, the hole-in-one that was made was from the shot heard all around the course.
Ooh.
The shot was from a .38 snub-nose revolver that hit the mark right between the eyes of a local millionaire, 55-year-old Roger Wheeler.
Dang, what a good start.
Yeah.
Intense. We both have like intense starts to our stories this
Yeah.
week.
So let's back up a little bit.
All right, that's what I usually do too.
Roger Wheeler was born on February 27th, 1926 in Boston, Massachusetts. I can't do a Boston accent. I'm just going to try and do it.
Don't.
No. All right, Boston, Massachusetts. He was a very successful businessman who owned multiple companies. He bought the Telex Corporation in the mid-1960s and employed over 5,000 people in the Tulsa area.
Wow, okay.
At this point, he had become a multimillionaire. So he, like, from a young age, like, started buying companies and different things. Like, he had amassed, like, a lot of different companies under his name. So, in 1979, or 78, there were conflicting reports.
Okay.
Roger Wheeler bought the World Highlight Organization. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. So, highlight is a sport.
What?
Yes.
What is it? I've never heard of that in my life. Not that I have much knowledge about sports. But...
it is a super weird sport. It's not very popular in the US anymore.
Obviously not.
No. There's still some like groups that do it in the US, but
okay, what is it?
It's hard to explain. It is like wall ball with a basket on your arm.
What? Okay. Wall ball with a basket on your arm. Interesting. What? These pictures are crazy. Hey, you gotta send me one of these too. We're gonna have a good Instagram post this week. I haven't even been doing weekly posts for our stories at all. I haven't been doing anything on Instagram, to be honest. But I'm sure doing it this week or next week.
So you have like this big scoop basket thing on your arm that you use to throw a ball at a wall, and people can like, I think people can try to like catch the ball before you hit the wall and things.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it was a very popular sport at the time that he bought this company.
Yeah.
It was especially popular for gangs to use as a way to fix matches and gain a lot of money.
Oh, what a dark history for this weird sport.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a playground game.
Yeah. But it was like it was big in gambling circles.
So weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roger Wheeler had hired some people to run the organization. He said he felt good about this because some of them were former FBI agents. But little did he know, they were a part of the Winter Hill Gang.
Oh.
So they were former FBI agents. Like, legitimately.
Who had, like, turned bad.
They had turned bad.
Yikes, that's wild. Man, Oklahoma has some crazy stories that I had no idea about.
No. So among these people were Paul Rico, who's a piece of crap.
Oh, okay.
And John Connolly, both of whom were former FBI agents. Also among the group was Boston mob boss James Whitey Bulger.
Oh. I feel like I've heard that name.
I think I'm saying his name right. I think it's Bulger. I listened to a podcast to try to make sure, but I've already forgotten what they said. I think it's Bulger, though.
I mean, I know there's some, like, actors with that last name, and it's Bulger.
Okay. So Roger Wheeler was a very astute businessman, and he started to realize that the numbers in his books for the World Highlight organization just weren't matching up. Eventually, he even sent his son David to Florida, like where the headquarters were, to do some investigating into the goings on within the investigation.
Okay.
Within the organization.
Right. So he really knew something was up.
He knew something was up. So at one point, and I didn't understand this quite in the article that I was reading, basically there was some sort of licensing investigation with the state that they had to do.
Yeah.
And he ended up asking a state investigator. He said, he asked if these people were like reputable people that he was working with. And the investigator responded, "You didn't buy a church, you bought a gambling facility. If bad people can buy into it, they will."
Yeah. Whew. Yikes.
But then he apparently told somebody that the New York Stock Exchange was a greater gamble than High Lie.
Okay.
So, but he became more and more suspicious of some of the people within this organization.
Sounds like for good reason, yeah.
As he started to get more concerned about what was going on within the organization, he also started to get more concerned about his safety. And he started to actually use security. Before this point, even though he was a multimillionaire, he really didn't use much security. Yeah. He just didn't feel the need for it. At one point, he even had a pilot do a test flight without him in it, and he joked, "I hope that they don't bomb me."
Oh, he was like really concerned.
He was starting to get really concerned. Yeah. And he was kind of like laughing it off.
Yeah.
He eventually came into too much information, and the mob, the Winter Hill Gang of Boston, decided they had to get rid of him before he could mess up their operations.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah. So, for $50,000, they hired hitman Johnny Martirano to kill Roger Wheeler.
Okay.
And Martirano had already killed, like, a lot of people. He was an established hitman.
Right. They hired a true professional. They weren't playing around.
They weren't playing around.
Okay.
So Rico, his former FBI agent, supplied the information to the hitman to tell him his daily habits, his weekly golf game, like how he got there, all the details.
Oh, I can't imagine giving all that information knowing that it's going to lead to somebody's death.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I guess when you're the one who hired the hitman, then you don't really care. But, like, that's wild.
So Martirano later described the killing in court. He said, "We spot his caddy, but I've never seen this guy. So we park a few rows closer to the club. I'm in full disguise. We picked up that stuff at a theatrical store in Tulsa. Full beard, sunglasses, baseball cap. Finally, I see a guy coming down from the hill from the club to the parking lot. He said, I thought it might be Wheeler. So I let him walk past our car, and then I fall in behind him. What I thought was, if he gets in the caddy, because he was driving a Cadillac. That's what he means by caddy.
Okay.
He said, if he gets in the caddy, I clip him. If he goes from the car, just keep walking. But it's him. He's getting in the car. He doesn't hear me. He's about to close the door, but I grab it to keep it open. He jumps back in the seat, startled, and I let him have it. One shot between the eyes.
Oh.
Snub nose. 38 revolver.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. That wouldn't be the only death in this particular case. The president of the World Highlight Organization, John Callahan, was seen as a possible weak link by the mob, and so he was also murdered just over a year later by the same hitman.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. The case goes cold for a while. So when Roger Wheeler was shot, there were 4 live bullets found in the car with him. So 4 bullets that had not been shot, like they had not been fired. And at the time they thought maybe that was like a signature calling card of the killer.
Yeah.
Turns out the gun that they bought in Oklahoma just like fell apart when he shot that one shot. Like had he missed, he wouldn't have been able to finish it because the gun literally fell apart and the bullets fell out of the gun and he
was just like, okay, bye.
He didn't have time or didn't care about like picking it up.
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild that little accident threw things off for so long.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, that wasn't the only thing, but we'll get to it.
Oh.
And then with the president, Callahan, a dime was found on the body. And so they thought like that was a signature. Like, and it just had fallen out of the pocket of one of the killers, like when they put him in a trunk.
Okay.
But they like overanalyzed all the
They sure did.
Things.
Listen, I get it. I also overanalyze everything in my life, but
the case went cold, but not just due to these things, but also because every time that they tried to follow leads that took them to certain people, FBI stonewalled them. They wouldn't let them investigate certain people.
Interesting.
Yeah, funny how that happens. But Detective Michael Huff repeatedly kept trying to solve the case and get justice for the Wheeler family. The FBI kept preventing them from getting information they needed. And it turns out, what do you think the reason might be?
I'm thinking maybe the former FBI agents had some connections.
I'm thinking so. And not to mention that one of the men involved in the killing was being protected as an FBI informant.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's cooled for a long time. During this time, I had to throw this in there. I saw an article about this. This was really sad and touching and really cool.
Okay.
David Wheeler,
the son,
he created during this time. So during this time, this is like 90s, like early 2000s now.
Okay.
So internet is becoming a thing. He creates a software to help catch criminals.
I love that.
Yes. So he created InfoGlide, an Austin software business that helps local and federal authorities fight crime and businesses combat fraud.
Good for him.
So it was inspired because of what happened to his family, and he said, I guess you could say we made lemonade out of lemons. Although investigators in the case for his father have never used his software because it works best on recent crimes.
Makes sense.
But he said, I want to catch more crooks than anyone else.
Love that.
Yeah. So he founded the company in 1991. And at that time it was already being used by the Tulsa Police Department to help its investigations. It was also being tested by the U.S. Justice Department's Regional Organized Crime Information Center in Tennessee. Organized crime, mob.
Interesting
how both the Tulsa Police Department and organized crime units have this.
Interesting.
That center was creating a special unsolved homicide and missing persons database.
Okay, cool.
It also had another package part of it that was a fraud investigator designed to detect and prevent insurance fraud. But he said it mimics a detective's decision-making process, but instead of it taking hours or days, it takes minutes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. It was a long process for him to do that. At one point, he even had to sell the family car to keep going on making it.
Dang.
Isn't that incredible?
That is. That's awesome.
Finally, and there were a lot of different, I wasn't able to get all the details of how this next section worked. But basically, they finally were able to break through the FBI. They got to the right people that realized that there was
something going on,
corruption in the FBI, and they were able to see that FBI agents had actually put, it was either 3 or 4 people in prison for somebody else's, like they knowingly put these people in prison, 2 of whom died in prison.
That is awful.
To protect these people that they knew were bad, that they were calling FBI informants.
That is awful.
Yeah. So they finally figured it out, and Bulger started tipping off the FBI about Martirano, the actual hitman.
Yeah.
And the hitman was like, no.
Right. Like, I was just hired to do this. This wasn't my plan.
So he was on the lam for 16 years, but when he was captured...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But you said that so casually. So he was on the lam for 16 years, and then...
But after he was captured in 1995, he was like, no. He was like, I was ratted out. So he's like, fine, I'm going to take a plea deal, and I'm going to rat you out.
Yeah, as he should.
Yeah. So he felt betrayed by his former boss. Makes sense. And close associate Steve the Rifleman Flemmy.
What a name.
I know. So Martirano took a plea deal in 1999. He had killed 20 people.
That's insane. How can you live with yourself?
But the plea deal led to the indictments of Bulger and Flemmy.
Okay.
Martirano was sentenced to 12 years in prison.
He got 12 years for killing 20 people?
You want to know how many he served?
No. I mean, yes, but...
8. More than
That's insane.
More than it.
I was gonna say like 5.
Yeah.
But
he got out in 2007.
My goodness.
Yeah. In a 2008 interview with 60 Minutes. So, fun fact about this, I heard this on the podcast through Golf Digest.
Okay.
Apparently he actually was a high school classmate with a guy that worked for 60 Minutes. But while he was in prison, the guy died. But he had promised his classmate, like, hey, I know you for 60 Minutes. Like, when I get out of prison, I'll do an interview with you. And the guy died. And he still honored that promise.
I don't want to like him, but that's very sweet.
I know. And then they were talking on the podcast about, like, how this guy, although he was obviously a terrible guy, he had a very strict honor code. And so, like, honored promises, loyalty, like, that was big. And so that's why he took the plea deal.
Didn't mind murdering people, but was not going to break a promise. That crosses the line.
That's the line. And he actually uses that same logic in his interview. He says, it was kind of like an honor among thieves logic, saying that he was an FBI informant and not a rat. One has got the courage to stand on the stand. The others are doing it behind your back and dropping dimes. I'm trying to stop Bulger from ratting on anymore.
Okay. So I mean, I guess I get it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So on May 5th, 2001, Rico went before the House Government Reform Committee in Washington, D.C. To testify.
Okay.
This guy is a piece of crap.
Yeah, you said that, yes.
I know.
He must be really bad if you keep saying it. If you keep like pointing him out of everybody.
Yeah, because he seems to be more of like the orchestrator of like the fraud part and the FBI of like knowingly sending innocent people to prison to protect bad people and protecting them with like basically the witness protection program, like FBI informant like systems. Lawmakers basically were wanting him to testify, talk about what he did, but also they were wanting to see him be remorseful. Yeah. And he was not. They kept questioning him about all these documents that they found with the FBI that show that in order to protect an mafia informant, he had knowingly sent 4 men to prison for life in 1968 for a murder they did not commit. Yeah. 2 of the men died behind bars, but a 3rd had been freed. Okay. I don't know about the 4th one, but the 3rd had been freed. That guy had been in prison for 30 years. His wife had still stayed by him and had tried to keep the family together during those 30 years.
That is so sad.
Joseph Salvati and his wife Marie. So Joseph was the one that got put in prison normally, and she like greeted him and like they like had a reunion when he got out.
30 years.
30 years, and she knew the whole time he was innocent. Like stayed with him, backed him.
And I'm glad she did, but also like that.
That's horrible. That's a family that was torn apart. Yeah. Even though they're back together now, like they
They
torn
lost
apart.
30
They
years.
30 years. It's an insane amount.
That's awful.
I'm not sure the full name of this person, but Shays, who was one of the committee members,
Okay.
said, I've been watching you all day, talking to Rico. I've been watching you all day, and I'm going to tell you what I think. I think you worked for the FBI, then you went to work for organized crime at Hialeah, and you sent an innocent man to jail. If I were you, I would get down on bended knee before the Salvati family and ask for eternal pardon. And you just don't give a shit.
Ooh, this sounds like a movie.
Yeah, and Rico said, is that on record?
Hate this guy.
Right?
Yeah, he sucks.
Shays then asked Rico what he thought about the suffering and the loss that the Salvati family must have experienced over 3 decades of forced separation. And he says, it'd probably be a nice movie.
That's what I said. But I said it in a, like, oh, this is like a movie sort of way.
Right. But his flippant response was, it'd probably be a nice movie. When he's the one that
he caused
this. Yes.
Awful.
Later, when another congressman pressed the point, it was Rico who had had enough. What do you want from me? Tears?
This guy.
I know. That's why I said he's awful.
Yeah.
Because he literally has no remorse.
That's insane.
That retort was widely reported on national news wires and network newscasts, and it briefly became to symbolize the FBI's stubborn attitude towards the case and the larger scandal. Like they were beginning to find like all sorts of things that the FBI had done. So, Congressman William Delahunt put it was like what you would expect to hear from an SS guard in a Nazi death camp. I was somewhat prepared for the lack of moral responsibility, but what's stunning is just how twisted the depravity is and how deep it reaches.
Goodness.
Yeah. So Paulo Rico was finally indicted on murder charges in 2003. However, the scumbag died in 2004.
Of course he did. So it always happens.
He died in 2004 in a Tulsa hospital where he was moved to from prison, still under indictment for the 1981 murder. He was 78.
Ugh.
So, for more than 16 years, Bulger escaped punishment for his crimes after he fled Boston in 1994. It wasn't until June 2011 that a neighbor of Bulger and his girlfriend in the beach town of Santa Monica, California, identified him for the FBI after seeing an America's Most Wanted episode.
Crazy.
Isn't that awesome?
Can you imagine being like,
that's our neighbor. That's my neighbor.
Like, do we call this in? He's right next door.
Can't be.
Is that really him?
So Bulger was convinced of numerous killings in 2013 and sentenced to back-to-back life sentences.
Okay.
Just a little bit more. I don't know why, but eventually he was sent to the U.S. Penitentiary Hazleton in West Virginia. This was in 2008. Early on that morning, a mere 4 hours after he'd arrived on a transfer to that prison, Bulger was found dead in his cell.
Oh.
His body had been wrapped in blankets in his bed as if he were sleeping. Yeah.
Oh.
The 89-year-old's face was so badly bloodied and mashed that he was barely recognizable.
Oh. Okay.
Officials disclosed that they believe that he had been beaten with a padlock wrapped in a sock.
Oh. Well, I don't like that.
Both of which could be purchased in the prison store.
Well, that doesn't seem like a good thing to be able to be purchased in the prison store.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the padlock.
Why the padlock?
I mean, I get the socks.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. One more thing about that is one of the people suspected of torturing and killing Bulger in the penitentiary. Also, the penitentiary is known as Misery Mountain because of its inmate violence. Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. Just think about, like, if you're one of the innocent people.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Awful.
So one of the suspects in Bulger's death is a former hitman. Massachusetts gangster Photios Freddy Gaius and his brother are both serving life sentences for killing a Genovese crime family boss, and their deeds were exposed by mafia informants. So people wonder if there was motive for killing him because he snitched on water on
That's my first thought, yeah.
Gaius, who's in his mid-50s, has never been charged, at the time of this article, had never been charged with Bulger's death. I didn't look to see if he ever did. But he'd been in solitary confinement ever since.
That's
So
not good.
at that point, he spent 23 hours a day in a cell with no connection to the outside world. And his son, Alex Gaius, told NBC News in August of 2021, enough is enough. 2.5 years is insane. It is inhumane.
It is inhumane, yeah.
If they had the evidence, go ahead and indict him. If not, transfer him and release him out of solitary.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with that too.
That's
either indict him because you have evidence, or get him out.
Yeah, if you don't have
There's
the evidence
no
to
reason,
indict him,
no.
he shouldn't be in solitary.
No.
Unless he's like truly a threat to others and like that is a pattern or something. But like,
or you don't have a way to protect him out and you think that
he would get hurt.
Right.
But there's gotta be a better way than throwing him in solitary.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
And that's the case of Roger Wheeler's murder.
What a good one. I didn't know all that. All I knew was like, he was like a millionaire that got shot at the golf course.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I knew.
I had never heard that story. So yeah.
Crazy. Great job. That was insane.
All right.
What a couple of crazy stories this episode.
Yeah. It's
very different stories.
Very different, yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed, make sure that you rate and review the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure that you share this podcast with somebody else that you think will enjoy it.
Like and subscribe on YouTube at Spooky Okie Podcast.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Spooky Okie Podcast. And send us any recommendations for stories that you have, whether true crime or spooky. You can send that to Instagram or to our email at spookyokiepodcast@gmail.com.
And support us on Patreon. It's only $3 a month, and you'll get to see all of our spooky investigations. We can't wait to do more of them.
Yes, we're looking forward to it. We've got some planned. So make sure you follow on all the things.
Yep. And stay spooky.
And stay spooky.